think it's very important that we look back at our roots. The Southworth family had their hand in most of the early organization of this town.
The house is one of 2 stone houses in the main village of Deep River.
The granite that's here was part of the granite industry that is no longer. You don't see very many houses here in Deep River made of granite because it was an export that we had.
So it's kind of significant just because it's a big stone house.
What we know about the Southworth family is that Job Southworth fought in the Revolutionary War, came home from the war, and started his business building ships at the Deep River Landing. Ezra built this house for his bride, we think about 1842.
We don't have exact documentation, but since Ezra married in 1840, he acquired the property in 1841, we think 1842 is a decent date.
They had 3 children. The little girl was probably stillborn. Ezra was born next. Ezra Job Bernie Southworth. And his brother, Asa, only lived to about 9 years old. His dad died early in 1850s, and he inherited quite a lot of property and business. Dad had been part of the Silliman Inkwell factory up in Chester, was part of a couple of businesses in town, mostly Silent Partners as well. They were part of a shipbuilding business down at the landing still, sponsoring ships. Bernie married in 1882 to Fanny Shortland out of Brooklyn. They too were a shipping family. They had 1 child, Ada, who sits behind me here, who lived to adulthood. She married Charles Munson, also in shipping, his family. They had 1 child who died in infancy as well.
I think that the board of directors and the volunteers here have taken a great pride in keeping the dining room and the parlor and the marine room and the interior of the house to look like it might have looked when the Southworths lived here.
The house went through a lot of stages, and it's kind of interesting just because it had a flat roof. Soon after, they put a gable on it. And then in the 1880s, along with Bernie's marriage, he adopted the style of that era, which was Queen Anne. The L here was added. Even the L went through changes. Part of it was a porch that got enclosed and became part of a big dining room. They changed the 2 rooms on each side in the stone house into 1 large room with a little decorative feature that was also Victorian in nature. Added bedrooms upstairs in the L and also changed the rooms up there as well.
Ezra Job Bernie Southworth, known as Bernie, had written in his will that he thought that if his daughter did not live to maturity, that this house should become part of a museum for the Southworth family. But Ada did live to adulthood but had no children to pass this place on to. And on her death, she signed this property over to the Deep River Historical Society for historic purposes. And we're very happy to tell the story of the Southworth family here and the story of Deep River and how it relates to the rest of the United States.
And number 1, when the new people came in, they came into the house and did everything they could to make it sort of stable. But when we came in as a group, we decided, well, let's bring it back to what it looked like when it was Victorian. Make it be like the dining room that Ada might have had when she invited her friends over for tea. Likewise in the parlor, red was chosen. It highlights the gold in the paintings, the pianos, the keyboards, that tells the story of the ivory and Pratt Reed and Company. The furniture in there, the horsehair furniture, was from the family. And of course, in those days, you wouldn't be watching television, you'd be listening to the stories, or you'd be listening to the person playing on the keyboards.
It's kind of replicated of what must have been a decent family property back in the 1800s.
The shipbuilding industry was another huge part of Deep River's history, and their ship captains as well. Eunice Post married Ezra Southworth in 1840, but it was her family that was involved in shipping and sea captains, and so we tell the story of Deep River's sea captains, the men who went to sea. The Munson Room upstairs was created, I think, in the 1950s. You know, when the addition was put on in 1882 to accommodate what Fanny and Ezra thought would be their large family that didn't come to fruition, they put 3 rooms up there, 3 bedrooms. After 1950, someone took those walls down and created a great meeting space up there. And for us, it's been fortunate as we are able to tell the story of the Deep River, how Deep River got its name, and we have wonderful examples of the products that were made by Deep River's industry here. The beautiful glass, the cut glass of the Nyland Glass Factory, the lace from the Lace Factory, and of course the ivory pieces from the Pratt Reed Factory.
And we have on the property part of the bleach houses that were located behind the piano factory. So we have a remnant here, and it's the only one in the United States. So that's pretty significant.
So I think that it really looks at Deep River in a time that none of us remember anymore, and gives us some insight into what life was like.